Starship Vigilant, a Star Trek Adventures campaign.
Right, so hello everyone, welcome to Starship Vigilant session 45. Today is December the 15th, 2021. This session is delayed from, my notes say it was going to be November the 3rd apparently, so apologies for missing a couple of weeks. We've all had a rum few weeks with one thing and another going on. So I'm very glad that we are all here, and thank you so much for making the time to join. So this is session or part 3 of As Many as 6 Impossible Things. So a couple of notices before we get started. I just wanted to apologise for the terrible sound quality of the last recording. I know nobody listens to it, it's just for my benefit, but anyway, the last one we had, all, as those of you who may remember, we had a few issues, and when I went through to edit it, it ended up about 40 minutes long because there was just big gaps of audio that were just unusable. So I'm hoping tonight will be better, but it's not the main reason we're here to record. It's just, I like to have the record of it for any future court cases, obviously. So other than that, notices wise, one other thing, well, actually two other things I'd like to say. So first of all, I just wanted to thank you all, as we're coming towards the end of the year, I just wanted to thank you all for being part of this game. It's been a great source of inspiration to me, especially this year. I've done some arty things, many more arty things this year than I have done in the last couple of years, and a lot of it is down to this game. It sort of inspired me to do some creative projects, some of which you won't have seen yet, but you will be seeing, shortly. And as I say, it's an inspiration, and it is down to you all being part of this and what we've kind of come up with here between us, and these characters and this setting. And so I want to thank you for that, because that's been, just on a personal note, that's been a good thing for me this year. And then the next thing I was going to say was, before I'll open it up if anyone else has got anything they want to say before we get started. But the only other thing I was going to say is that I think at the moment my plan will be to restart after Christmas, probably the 3rd week in January. I'll confirm a date. The 3-week rotation would mean that we would be starting pretty much the first week in January, which is like when we get back to normal. But I understand, because we have other games in the rotations, because we have obviously myself and Kevin, a part of Kevin's game, and also we have Digger's game to factor in. So I think what I'll probably do is, I don't really want to jump straight in on the 6th of Jan. I'll probably push it back until towards the end of the month, if that's okay with everyone. It'll give me time to get more prepared and just be, ready to hit the ground running. So anyway, that was it from me. Has anybody else got anything else they'd like to mention before we get cracking?
It does seem a far cry from going to the Modiphius pub meet and recording that first playtest game. It seems that we've come quite far. That was, 5 years ago?
Yeah, so 2017 is when this campaign started in 2017. I think, Kevin, you might even have done that in 2016. Because I think you were at the advanced playtest, weren't you? So it might even have been earlier in the year, if not the year before. But I'm pretty sure this campaign we started our first session.
Operation. So yes,
yeah,
we've come a long way then.
I think so. Yeah. So again, thank you for the journey, and thank you for the thanks for the memories, and thank you for the music. And
quickly, have we got it? Is Russell here weekend tonight, or?
No, he's online, but he's not in. I did speak to him today, but he's not on the call at the moment.
Oh, right, no, it's fair enough. I wasn't sure. I could see him lit up, but I wasn't sure whether.
Yeah, he's not. He's in Discord, but I don't think he's on this call. So anyway, that was it for me. So if no one's got anything else, I think we just crack on, shall we?
Because you mentioned the beginning of the campaign, I just wanted to say, now that we're at this end of the campaign, thank you everyone for welcoming me in and making me feel part of it. Because I've really been enjoying my time with you guys.
Oh, Steve,
Sorry.
Long may it continue.
There's lots more to come as well.
Yeah, I want to reiterate that actually. Thank you, Karen, because I know we've had a bit of a ropey time the last because obviously we've had what with illness and what with various things. So certainly, and I know we took a break over the summer for various reasons, and so I know it's been a little bit spotty. But as Karen implies, I've got plenty of material. I've got plenty of. I'm still enthused by the game, and I'm still enthused by the campaign. So I am hoping that next year will be more consistent. I mean, obviously things happen. We're still in the middle of a pandemic and all the rest of it, and there's all this going on. But I've got no intention of wrapping this up anytime soon.
Well, and Zoom quizzes again, so
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, thank you for that, Karen. And I agree. There's much more to come, and I think there's this ship and this crew have got a lot to offer. And as I say,
Modiphius. Shackleton Expanse.
I beg your pardon?
Does that mean you've actually read the Shackleton Expanse?
Yeah, I've got the book. Because the material we're doing at the moment is actually from the Shackleton Expanse campaign book, and we're only about halfway through that campaign. And obviously, there's scope for other things. And in fact, there's other avenues to pursue and stuff. But the actual official Modiphius campaign arc is. We're literally halfway through it, so obviously that there is definitely plenty of material, and ultimately we can make our own material if we run out of that. And as I say, I've got no desire to finish it anytime soon. And my New Year's resolution, not that I do such things, but if I had one, it would be that I will try and make the next year to be a bit more consistent, and to try and keep powering through. And so anyway, thanks, and thank you for that, Sarah Jane. Appreciate that, and everybody else. So right, are we good to go? Everyone good to go?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, if you want to scare you all, I've got an idea for a game, so may possibly do one at some point in the future.
Perfect. Well, I've got I'm sure I've got a couple of irons in the fire, so it's all good news. Okay, so this is, as I said, this is As Many as Six Impossible Things Part 3. So I'm going to assume that none of us can really remember what happened last time because it's been a while.
That might, yeah.
So I'll take it personally. I'm struggling. So I'll summarise as best I can. So essentially, you have the Vigilant has ended up in the alternate dimension. At the response of a plea from the Tilikal, who are the ancient species who have, it has become apparent, have seeded much of the Shackleton Expanse in particular, and potentially other areas of the known galaxy with advanced technology. So you came to this dimension, and in this dimension you discovered many odd things. You discovered the fact that the dimension had a kind of a strange other electromagnetic signature, which was causing issues for the ship and for the crew. You discovered that there was somehow atmosphere. There was all kind of strange effects going on. And through the efforts of the crew, through the chief engineer and through the science officer, and you managed to at least for now stave off the worst of the effects of the electromagnetic effects. So you were able to restore power and life support. You were able to navigate to some degree. You also retrieved a couple of strays. So one you retrieved a Lormian. So the Lormians being the species from oh bloody hell! What was the name of the? Oh god, I can't remember the name of that planet. It's not that. I think it's Organ 3. That was it. Organ 3.
Yeah.
I'll edit that out. It's fine.
I vaguely recall some jokes about organs.
Yeah, I'm sure. So Organ 3 was one of the first planets the Vigilant visited when it was discovered that the planet was breaking apart, and in the course of your just before you left our dimension, or if you remember, Organ 3 had been pulled into the Candidate 3 system, whereby it was about to crash into the planet, and as a result, you presume at least some of the population of that planet would have been killed. But in your investigations, you did retrieve a single individual who was kind of floating in space, who subsequently, although he's been retrieved, and Dr. Plume's managed to stabilize him, he's essentially been comatose, or at least unresponsive. You also had additional visions of Ash Tamalia, who, if you remember, Ash Tamalia is the female, at least female in appearance to you, Tilikal. Obviously, you've seen a projection of this being who identified herself as Ash Tamalia, who is one of the Tilikal, and it was in response to her plea that you had, in fact, come to this dimension. And also, you had managed to retrieve a Starfleet crewman, one of your crew, in fact, the security officer Carl Elias, who was presumed lost when he was last seen by you when he had been basically part of the officer exchange program and had joined the Klingon vessel, the Mapool, in exchange for Sergeant Kalish, who's obviously now part of the Vigilant crew. And when the Mapool had disappeared for reasons unknown, I should do my Stan Lee voice here, Kevin, and say, see episode 25 when Kevin did his thing. But anyway, the point is, the last time you saw Carl Elias, to all intents and purposes, was when he'd been on the Mapool, and then he'd been declared lost, and he has mysteriously appeared. And again, everything you've been able to determine from your medical records and from scanning him suggests that he is Carl Elias, and his memories of this place have been useful to you. You may remember that he had talked to you about the fact that in some ways thought became action, so you'd managed to navigate the Vigilant to some degree because of he'd explained to you this kind of odd phenomenon that in some ways your thought influenced this realm. And as I recall, that's kind of where we'd got to. So Elias had come on board. He'd had medical tests, and you're now in this region. You have power, you have life support, but you still have mysteries in front of you. And key amongst those, I guess, is how to assist the Tilikal, which is the reason you came here, or even how to locate them. Because although you have seen visions of Ash Tamalia, you haven't kind of located them, if indeed they're here in a physical sense. And also, of course, how to get home, which is another concern. So I know that's a bit of a lengthy ramble, but does that cover what you recall? And does anyone have anything they'd like to add or clarify that I've missed?
I think
Seems about right.
no. I think that's all I can remember.
That sums it up nicely, Steve. There's obviously stuff you missed, but it would take however many years we've been playing for to go through it all.
Yeah. Should I mention the drains overflowing? That was a while ago, so we won't go there. Okay, so essentially, let's open the scene. Let's open the scene. So you're in the briefing room on the Vigilant. So things have calmed down a little bit. I don't know if any of you are in roll 20. I think did I put the briefing room? Oh, I don't think I actually put that in. Don't worry, it's not that important. Oh yeah, I stand corrected. I did actually, just because I'm we like to use the visual aids, all the visual aids here. So if you look on roll 20, hopefully you will see any minute now. If I can drag the little doohickey over it, you should see that there's the briefing room.
There it
So
is.
if you refresh your roll 20, you should see that you've got the briefing room.
It's a nice glass table.
It's the same shape table as my dining room table.
Yeah, it does look like it came from IKEA or something. But anyway, so you get in the briefing room. Naismith has gathered you together.
Where's the minibar gone?
Where's the what?
The minibar. It's gone.
Oh, you mean the still?
Well, no, I know where the still is. That's down there. I'm sure we had a minibar in the briefing room.
I'm sure there is one. This is just an artist's representation, so you can fill in the detail.
They took it out because nobody could afford the prices.
Yeah, quite. Starfleet have got to find a way to build all those ships somehow, you know.
Yeah.
So you've gathered in the briefing room, and Naismith has gathered you around. So all of this department heads, such as which is basically you lot, and I guess this is just an opportunity to figure out what you'd like to do next. So, as I say, things have calmed down a bit. You've got power thanks to Giara and her team. You've got life support. You've the visions that you were seeing. If you remember, there was again before you managed to block out the radiation. You were seeing visions. That's all calmed down. So you're now in a slightly better position.
Did we whatever her name is? We've had more Tamalia. Have we had more visions of her?
No. So the last of
didn't she come back into solid? Didn't she materialize?
Did
if I remember right, she became solid.
Yeah. She did briefly, and again, she's still, again, was asking for your help, essentially. And as I say, that kind of led you to, if you remember, she kind of led you to Elias, to some degree. But again, his recollections have been, as I say, they've been helpful in some ways. But again, he's confused. He doesn't recall, how he got there. You're gathered in the briefing room, so I'm assuming that you'd like to grab their expertise is a question, I suppose.
I think the best thing to do is just get all department heads there, not just us.
Yeah, I think that kind of is you lot, isn't it? We've got security, we've got command, we've got
engineering,
science, engineering. We'll assume Dr. Plume's there as well.
Yeah.
Tompkins and HR.
No, we're not going to get HR to come in. No, let's not do that.
Can we have Elias there as well?
It's about to say the same thing, because again, if anything, this affects him as much as us.
Yeah, quite. Absolutely right. Okay. So, yeah, you're all sat around the table. Elias is looking slightly uncomfortable, mostly because he's like an ensign. He's a crewman, in fact. He's a sort of junior officer. What's that?
He's lower decks.
He is lower decks.
Lower decks.
Yeah. So he's there, and essentially, yeah. I'll let you lead the conversation, really, because again, this is really about what do you want to try and achieve, and just one little GM related point. So with Naismith, I think what we've kind of come to the decision is that with Naismith, as far as I'm concerned, he's collectively your kind of puppet, if you like. So if you
always our puppet.
Yeah, you decide on a course of action. That's what we'll do. I'm not going to necessarily, and there are certain things which he will relay to you. But as in this scenario, in this situation, you guys can come up with a plan, and that'll be the plan, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Okay. So the first thing what we need to decide is work out what Ash Tamalia wants us. How we can help her, and we've also got to find out how to get the hell out of this place.
Yeah.
But I have any brighter, insightful ideas. I'm just saying that's what we need.
So the way we contacted or managed to get some kind of contact was we got all of the psychic endowed people together in a room, and we used the Vulcan mind meld as to amplify those abilities to communicate, didn't we?
Yeah, and that's okay. That's excellent. Yeah, I think yes. I think yes. I may have slightly forgotten that, but that does yes. Okay, so I guess the thing then is So what you're telling me is you need to find her, basically.
Because if we can find her, she's the one that brought us here. She's the one she's the one that probably can send us back.
Okay.
So we need to enhance our ability to talk to her in a more permanent fashion.
Okay. So does anyone have any? So okay, that sounds like a plan, which is good. And okay, so Naismith, yeah. So again, in the purposes of the scene, so Naismith is he's listening to your input, and he says, okay, so I concur. I think our immediate priority is to establish contact again with Ashtamalia or any others of her people, and find out what we can do for them, and how the hell do we get out of this place and get home?
We get out
So
of it.
ideas. How can we? Yeah, ideas. How do we achieve that? How do we find her?
We tried the psionic tube once. It worked, so it's got to be the first place we start.
Yeah. Also, are there any artifacts floating around outside? Maybe one of those, if we bring it on board, might be able to.
Excellent. So, as we had established, there are many odd things floating around in this dimension. So you remember we talked about those crystalline structures that you had, that were pretty obvious. These large crystalline structures, and there are many smaller objects, artifacts, pieces of debris, pieces of crystal. Again, now that your sensors have been have worked to some degree. Now you remember also there was some disruption in the area, because if you remember, you had the thing where you saw the reflection of the Vigilant. So when you were moving, you saw the kind of other ship, which turned out to be so. In some cases, again, your sensors may not be trustworthy. So yes, maybe getting some sort of physical, tangible artifact that you could examine would be a good way to proceed as well. Okay.
Do that, we could find the what makes this dimension different, because we built a Faraday cage around the warp engine to enable us
essentially,
and that didn't we altered the frequency to do that, didn't we? So could we do the same to our communications, so that we transmit communications from the ship at the right frequency?
Yeah, certainly. So yeah, that's an excellent idea. So you're right. So if you remember, so engineering or Giara and her team managed to essentially, as you say, establish what you could describe it as a Faraday cage, essentially blocking out the harmful electromagnetic signature, which then enabled the warp reaction to function as it would in your home dimension, which means you've been able to restore power, and because obviously with the warp engines back online, you get power, you get everything. Yes, that's another option. So what I'm hearing is we've got a couple of options there. So let me just summarise to make sure I'm understanding. So the first thing we've got is the psionic method, which did work last time, or it certainly helped you locate her, or at least make some sort of contact with her. So that as you say, involved you getting basically I think there's 4 psionics on board, right? We've got there's obviously Osterhagen. We've obviously got there was a Betazoid. There's another Vulcan science officer, and then there was another. I think there's another species with psychic abilities. I seem to remember there was 4 crew members.
And I guess we want to try that in 2 ways. Just sitting in the ship, trying it, and then trying it either in some kind of Faraday cage to a reverse Faraday cage to change the frequency of our mind, our brainwaves, so that we are transmitting or listening at 10 hertz rather than the 12 hertz normally. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. That makes total Star Trek sense to me. Yeah, no, I totally get you. So that's your first best plan. So the second thing you talked about was so I guess you're kind of melding the 2 plans, right? So you're talking about using psionics, but also with the communications method, i.e., somehow focusing that psionic signal and you almost using it like a hailing frequency or a communications signal. Is that correct, or have I misunderstood you?
Yeah, to both listen and transmit.
Perfect. Okay. So, right, has anybody got anything else they'd like? Because I guess we can go straight to that. Has anybody got anything else they would like to throw into the mix before we...
No, but if we're looking at objects floating around, I'd be quite interested to find out some more about the crystalline things.
Excellent. Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah. Okay. So, what you could, how would you like to? I mean, I guess how would you like to do that? Do you want to just?
Carefully.
So what's that?
Carefully.
Carefully. Yeah. Good point. Yeah. So I guess. Yeah. So I guess your options are you could. It's been obviously we know that you can. And when I say you, I don't mean you. I mean whichever engineering grunt gets the short straw. But essentially, we know that you can leave the ship at the moment. You know, you've been outside the ship. There is a strange atmosphere / you know. So although it was established to be breathable, so you can leave the ship. You could use a shuttlecraft, which might be more problematic just because of the issues you've had with navigation that we've established. Or I guess you could try transporters, and you know, I guess as an engineer, maybe that might be your first. Because I guess you only want a fragment, right? You want a sample.
Yeah.
So maybe what you might also need to do is maybe what you could do is you could essentially shoot a chunk off one, and then just beam the fragment aboard. That would be a way to proceed, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I can think of ways it would be a bad idea, but yeah, why not?
It'll be fine.
What could possibly go
What could
wrong?
possibly go wrong? Yeah. Okay. So I guess what do you want to do first then? Because let's say we've got a couple of good plans of action there. So what would you like to try first? I'm up. It's up to you really how you want to go with it.
And we do both. I mean, at the end of the day,
Yeah, you can do it simultaneously. Yeah, sure.
If we get Osterhagen to start organising, because again, the psionic approach to this problem is basically going to be, you know, it's going to be his ball because you know he organised the last one. He's got the abilities.
So I'll run around and gather everyone together whilst you lot
gather and prepare this.
You do go and get a crystal whilst and then once you've got the crystal, I'll have everyone together with the two methods set up.
The only other thing also the only other thing that comes to mind is that Starfleet has encountered crystalline entities before. So, do you remember the one that took out? Is it Tasha's colony or someone's colony was wiped out?
Yeah, it was one of the colony. It was Tasha's colony, I think.
And sort of like if those things, we just be careful or find contrast and compare just in case anything like that exists here.
Okay, so what you can do, obviously, probably the first thing then, again, and I'll put my, my feeling would be that you would probably, I guess, before you do any of that, you probably want to scan one of the crystalline structures first, right? You want to see if it registers as a life sign. You may not want to shoot at it. Is the first thing I would suggest. So that's probably a good place to start. So I would suggest, right. So we've got Osterhagen is off gathering up the other crew members, which includes Science Officer Tavak. And also Ensign Imbran, who's the Betazoid security guy. So he's off running around. So Naismith gets Jacob Ross to make a roll. So I'll do that for us. Let's just get him to have a little pop and see whether he can make a scan. So and again, I'm going to because obviously because of this environment, I'm going to give you a bonus dice because you're following Elias's advice and this notion of thought becoming reality. So in other words, you found that if you think something to happen, you can it will happen. And I don't mean as in give me $1 million. I mean as in, as Kaz found out when you were piloting the ship, you had to kind of think it happening for it to happen. And so in the same way, I'm going to give him an opportunity to try and just to make kind of a role to make sure that he is able to utilize that, because otherwise the results will be untrustworthy, possibly. But
there is just now that you've mentioned that, there is one thing that has occurred to me.
Yeah.
What if we were to all just will Ash Carly into existence?
Become us.
You could try.
Do that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if it's what Ross Dias says, maybe we can just will her. Collective thought of the entire ship would will her into existence.
I mean, you can certainly have a go. Nothing's stopping you. So do you want to? So obviously, I guess then you'd want to coordinate.
Yeah.
So I guess that you get Naismith to send out a call across the intercom.
Yeah, I know it sounds daft, but it's just
all
sort
crew
of
members. Stop what you're doing. I want you all to concentrate on the entity known as Ash Tamalia, and I want you all to compel her to appear, if that, for want of a better expression. And so, okay, so you do that. So all through the ship, everybody puts down what they're doing and stops and concentrates. And nothing obvious happens.
Okay. It's worth a try. I mean,
It's worth a try. And again, when I say nothing obvious happens, everyone tries and thinks, and you don't know, but nothing, no vision of her appears, no manifestation of her appears anywhere on the ship.
So could we think about visualize a communication object and ask and think of a communication object that we can communicate with her.
Well, if I may, if I may interject a little something, what might be useful, maybe if you have a tangible component of this dimension, that might also help you focus on what you're trying to do. So
we need some crystals.
Possibly, it's a thought, and also it's what you're doing anyway. This is your sort of plan anyhow. So you've attempted to contact her. So meanwhile, Osterhagen is gathering his people in down in the. I guess you'd probably go to engineering again, because you said you wanted to set up a Faraday cage equivalent, right, Kevin? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay, so Giara, you and your guys can. I'm not going to make you roll for that. You can. You've already set this up, so you can easily knock up another, smaller enclosure that is big enough for the 4. I keep saying 4. I think it might only be 3, but anyway, we'll go with 3 because they're the 3 I can remember who have got the psionic abilities. So it's big enough for the 3 of you to comfortably, you basically can sit in this. It's essentially it's a cage, but it's. And so as you arrive in engineering, Kevin, they're kind of putting it together. Meanwhile, on the bridge, I'm going to get Ross to make this roll for his science, just to scan the crystals. So if you bear with me 1 second. So he's going to. Has he got the focus? Which, yeah, I think so. That would apply. So let's have a little look and see how we get on. Yep, okay, that's good. That's good enough. So I'm going to get the ship to roll, because also he's obviously so he's working in conjunction with the ship. So we'll see whether the ship can do anything to assist you. So just bear with me 1 second. There we go. That's the Vigilant. And so the ship is going to roll with sensors and science. Yeah, okay. Right, so up on the bridge, Ross does a scan and he feeds his results back to Giara, because Giara, you kind of implemented this plan, and he just confirms he's got a range, he's got a target. There's an outcropping because these crystals are all irregular and they're large. They're like icebergs, effectively. Quite large structures.
Okay.
So he's got what looks like a viable target, which he says you can dislodge based upon his readings, and obviously you don't know. From as far as he can tell, the structure is certainly not a lot. There's no life signs. Put it that way. There's no what you would know to be life signs. So if you scan a human being or an alien, there are bio signs and all these kind of telltales. So there's nothing like that. So these structures appear to be inert, and he's been able to detect a suitable target for you. So he'll report that back to you. So if you would like, do you want to go ahead and have somebody take a shot and get that piece for you?
Yeah, I think so. If we can't detect that it's alive, then yes, we can do that, I think.
Cool. Okay. So should we get you to have do you want to take a shot then, Kalish? Would probably be your ballpark. So it's a difficulty 0 task, this, because obviously this is this target is pretty large. It's pretty stationary in relation to you. And so you're not shooting at a moving target or anything. It's quite an easy shot.
Yep.
But again, this might give you an opportunity to generate some momentum. So why don't you have a crack at that?
Go for.
It should be, I think, daring and it's daring and security. I'm guessing.
Yeah. I'm just saying if I got focus. No, probably not focus. Okay.
What focuses has she got? I've got a sheet up in front of me.
None that are particularly relevant, I don't think.
Other than just generally being a Klingon, but
yeah, exactly.
The ship will assist you though as well, because obviously you're using the ship's systems. So yeah, you can go ahead and have a shot, and let's see how you get on. So it should be a good result. There we go. What we got? Oh, brilliant!
2 successes.
Okay, 2 successes. Right. So that gives you 2 points of momentum. If you give me a second, I'm going to reach over because I'm up in the spare room. So I'm going to reach over to my my little bag here, and I'll grab us some momentum tokens out, because the benefit of being here is I've got it all kind of sitting next to me. So bear with me one sec. Right. So you managed to take a shot, and sure enough, the phasers lance out in a controlled shot, so you're very precise with your shot. And sure enough, a fragment of this crystalline structure breaks free from. You can see, you watch it on the view screen, and a fragment of this object breaks off and begins to tumble away from the crystal. There are kind of shards of crystal expanding out from the structure, but you've got a good lock on the actual fragment itself. It's probably about 3 or 4 meters in length.
Okay.
So right, this thing is just drifting free of the main structure now.
So can we beam it on board?
You certainly can. Transporter officer is given the coordinates, and again he is attempting. He's also instructed to remember to use mental effort and to focus or believe. I hate that. That doesn't sound right, but the instruction from Elias again is that you have to kind of believe that these things are going to work as they should. And so, sure enough, on the viewer you see the crystalline object kind of dematerializes, and within a minute, the officer in the transporter room reports that he has a fragment on board. And so, what would you like them to do with it?
Well, first off, erect a containment field around the transporter.
I'm assuming that would probably be standard procedure anyway. So I'll tell you that he doesn't. You don't need to spend any momentum or make any rolls. He scans it. So yes, you're right. He brings it on board. There is a containment field around the transporter pad, and he runs through the usual, scans. And there's not. It seems to be what it appears to be. It seems to be inert. It's not giving off any radiation. It's not giving off any it's not emitting any energy at all, other than the background EM, which you know from this. You know that this dimension is composed of or is filled with. So again, you can detect that because because of Osterhagen's work previously. You're able to sort of identify that. But yeah, other than that, it seems to be perfectly fine.
As I say, I get the instruct the science team to give it sort of like the once over.
Yeah.
And make sure it's before we start messing with it.
Yeah. Okay. So right. Meanwhile, down in engineering, you're all gathered in your little chamber, which again, there's engineers kind of fussing around, connecting up this, that, and the other ODN conduits and all that good stuff. So, how do you want to handle this, Kevin? I guess is the question.
So, what we want to do is do a control. So, we're going to use Tompkins as a control.
The victim, sorry.
Sitting outside of the Faraday cage, everyone tries to connect to each other and then see if we can locate Tompkins in the ship.
Yeah.
And then get a gist of how good that connection is, how that feels.
Yeah.
Do the same thing again inside the Faraday cage.
Yeah.
And try and connect with him, and just do a series of connections with him moving further away down the ship, so that we've got a benchmark as to both methods. Okay.
So the way I'm interpreting that then is that will be, so I'll get you to lead it as you're the guy who's kind of coordinating, and this will be so these other crew members will assist you much in the way that the ship would assist you, because you're obviously doing a mental task. So you have got. I would suggest this is going to be a control. I guess control. It's going to be probably what control and science, I suppose. I would argue. Focus. You haven't really got any focuses, which.
Well, for the test, because we're doing a series of benchmarks to get a kind of a feel, I would suggest reason, because we're logically looking at.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's fine.
It feels like X. If it's outside the room, it feels like Y. So it's over like maybe an hour, we're doing a series of mental tests just to get benchmarks.
Okay, that works for me. So we're going to do that, and then what we'll do is, so assuming you get so this is going to be a difficulty. This is going to be difficulty 2 task.
So okay, so here we go.
Right, so you've succeeded. So therefore, I'm going to get the. I'm just going to roll a d20 for. I'm going to roll 2 d20 for these guys who are assisting you, and I'm going to say the target number is going to be 13. So what do we get? Okay, so you get 1 success, so that takes you to a total of 3 successes. So what that means is you've now got 3 momentum, so that adds that you succeeded, and that gives you 1 point of momentum, which takes you up to 3 points of momentum.
Cool.
And sure enough, you concentrate, and you are able to, for want of a better word, lock on to Tompkins. With the 3 of you combining your thoughts, and again, the Faraday cage is successfully blocking out the background dimensional EM interference, and you are able to again successfully kind of mind meld with them, and you are able to locate him and you know that he's in corridor 3 outside of engineering. Basically, he's literally outside the room, but you can kind of get a good read on him.
Cool. And after we've done that for like half an hour of him moving away, we kind of a post-mortem afterwards to discuss how he felt, whether inside the Faraday cage worked better than outside the Faraday cage, whether running it at 10 megahertz versus 27 megahertz, and try and get a feel for the best connection.
Okay. So meanwhile,
the idea with one of the benchmarks is we're going to think about what we're doing as well as actually doing it to try and make it even better. If that makes sense.
Okay. Right. So while you're doing that, so Kaz, what's going on with this shard then? Because it's now been on board. You've checked it out.
Yeah.
So as you're you seem to be dealing with that. What do you want to do with it next?
So what we're going to do? What we're trying to do? We're trying to channel the psionics through here, have we?
I think what you could try and do is you could try and essentially focus it through the crystal. Maybe tie the crystal into the Faraday cage, maybe, and essentially channel it through that. Because, like I say, this is a tangible part of the. This is a tangible part of this dimension. It's got this different EM signature to it.
I would assume then that the psionic the telepaths would have to
touch it
physically charge. So try and work out some sort of interface. What's the best way to? Would it be that, as I say, sort of like their group mind to channel through the?
So we need to test it.
It's not really a technical thing. It's not really.
I'm open to your suggestions. That's a good point. Sure. So how do you want to approach it?
Test it with Elias holding it, and then with somebody else holding it to see if, because he's been out there, been soaked in the stuff, whether that actually dampens what we're trying to do, or whether that enhances what we're trying to do.
That's interesting. I like that. I like that idea. Right. Okay. So why don't we do that then? So okay. So you get two Kaz. You get two burly security guards to carry this thing down to the engineering. So they come sort of
carry Elias.
What's that? Carry Elias. Yeah. You bring that down to the engineering section. So in the engineering section, you've got Giara and her team are busying themselves, keeping the Faraday cage going, and tweaking and trying to improve that. So you've got the three telepaths are sitting in this chamber, having a bit of a discussion about this. So your two guys bring in the fragment. So right, what do you want to do first then, chaps, with the fragment? How do you want to handle this?
It's up to you, Kev. That's up to you.
I don't mind. So assuming we've spent half an hour going through the process of benchmarking exactly the best, what we feel is the best two methods of communicating in Faraday cage with Person X holding the crystal versus outside the Faraday cage with Elias holding the crystal. Just whichever one of those permutations turns out to be the one we think is the best, and then the second best, and try both of those.
Right. So I'm going to. Okay. That's excellent. So I'm going to give you a bonus. I'm going to give you an extra dice to roll. So what happens is you go through, as you say, you go through this rapid sequence of testing, and you discover that with Elias holding the crystal or physically touching the crystal, you seem to get much greater clarity when reaching out. So the three of you mind meld. So you're Osterhagen is kind of the instigator, because you're the one with you mind meld with the other two. And then you reach out to Elias, and as I say, you detect from him, or you detect in him, this clarity. Which again, he's not psychic. He doesn't It's never exhibited any sign of psychic ability before. But as you rightly surmise, it seems like something in his exposure to this dimension has maybe altered him, or at least has helped him channel the abilities. And so, yes, it soon becomes clear that the best way to do this is for him to be holding this, physically in contact with this piece of crystal. And as I say, you get this almost shockingly clear view of Tompkins. And yeah, you try that several times, and so yeah, you're pretty sure that that's your best option to reach Tilikal, is to use that configuration.
Cool.
So, not Tilikal, Ashtamalia, who's one of the Tilikal. Right. So, does anybody have anything they'd like? So, I take it the next step then is for you to try and contact her, right?
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
What would you say to her?
Well, that's a good question. Excellent question. I guess the first thing to do is see if you can actually make contact. Because again, just to sort of summarize, I guess you are here at her instigation. This is why you come to, and she wanted your help, but so far
We don't
she
know
hasn't
what
been
that
able to
help is.
give exactly. She hasn't been able to give you any clear guidance as to what is required. So I guess your plan is to contact her and to try and make some sort of meaningful contact so that you can actually have a dialogue with her and say, okay, what the hell is it you want us to do? Because at this point, you don't actually know what it is she wants you to do. So
We may not even have to ask her. As soon as we make contact, she might say, finally, and then just tell us what we need to do.
correct. So sorry, go ahead.
Yep, go on.
All I was going to say is I'll just go around the room, just go around the virtual room then. So do any of your characters have any safeguards, anything they want to do before you initiate this contact?
I'm going to recommend to Naismith that we put the ship on alert, not red alert. Just, not necessarily just put it into a defensive posture.
Yep.
Just in case, because we don't know what's going to happen. So and we don't know what's being, but sort of like put the ship on maybe yellow alert or something like that. So we.
Okay. Yeah.
That's it really. Yeah, just put the ship on
He
yellow alert.
concurs. So he turns to the he turns to whoever the operations officer is and says, put the ship on yellow alert. So sure enough, all over the ship, the alert light begins to flash. So the ship's on yellow alert. So cue scenes of crew members running down corridors looking busy, which is what we do when we have an alert. And within a couple of minutes, the ship's at yellow alert. So everyone's on standby. All crew members are up and about and kind of at their posts or standing by. So yeah, that's good. Anyone got anything else they want to do?
No, not really.
Okay, cool. Sorry, go ahead, Sarah Jane. What was that?
No, I was just saying no.
Yeah, cool. All right then. Well, okay. So over to Osterhagen then. Over to Osterhagen and his merry band.
All right, chaps. See the woman, be the woman. So we're going to. This is the Vigilant calling. Vigilant calling.
Okay, so you begin to concentrate, and you focus. You focus on the image of Ashtamalia that you had, that you've seen since you came on board, and you sort of reach out with your mind. So Osterhagen, you're in your perception, you're sending your consciousness out, trying to contact this being, and as you do so, you become aware, and you're not the three of you who are in this meld. Obviously, your perception is different, but from those outside watching, so presumably the rest of you who are kind of looking to see what's going on, you see that this crystal actually seems to glow slightly, and Elias is still holding it. His eyes are closed. He doesn't seem to be feeling any ill effect from this. But as you see the concentration on the faces of your crewmates, this crystal begins to sort of very faintly glow. And suddenly, all of a sudden, Ashtamalia herself begins to fade into view in the engineering chamber, and this time she seems to be more tangible than she has been before. But if you remember, before you've seen her as a vision, like kind of almost like a ghost. But in this instance, she actually seems to almost be tangible. I'll refer you back to the title card, which I will bring onto the Roll20 screen again. So, although this is an image of Ashtamalia as a kind of ghostly figure, but she appears as a humanoid female. But as I say, now she appears she seems to be fully tangible. And after a moment, and the three of you in the tank are kind of brought back to real perception. You kind of snap out of your state, and you again see this figure, and she's in the room, and she's looking around in sort of interest at this chamber that she's in. And as I say, she appears to be physical. So over to you. So basically, she's now appeared and is standing in front of you.
Okay, can I? I'm going to do it. I'm going to just go to reach out and touch her.
Oh, I say.
You know,
she looks. So you reach out and touch her, and yes, indeed, she is tangible. I'm going to assume you touch her on the shoulder or something. Nothing too creepy.
Oh, not put my hand through her stomach, like.
No, but you just reach out and touch her on the, essentially to acknowledge that she's solid, right? So she reacts to this touch, and she turns to look at you, and again, you can see that her eyes are kind of solid color. And she has a slight smile on her face, and she says, "Indeed, I am corporeal, at least for now. You have done well. You have all done well." And
you asked for our help. What do you want of us?
she kind of doesn't really answer you directly. So she sort of walks away from you, and again is looking around, and she runs a hand over the Faraday cage, just like curiosity. She doesn't seem to, this is something she doesn't seem to have really seen before.
I'm going to take a note of where she's put her hand, so I'm going to attempt to take some DNA off that later. For not
there he is.
Never change.
There he is. He's back
to that, but for also working out what kind of species they are, because we don't know much about them. Be useful to have some actual information on them.
That's a very convincing story. I'm sure everyone will buy that.
Got a chance. Does it seem that she seems to be like experiencing sensation? Sort of
yeah. I mean, yeah, kind of. She, as I say, she's looking around with curiosity more than anything, and she, as I say, she's like touching, and so she touches the Faraday cage, but only in passing. She literally brushes against it, and she looks around the chamber, and obviously there's a fair few of you, of the crew in the room, all kind of looking at her back, and she says, she walks back towards Kaz, and says, "Perhaps it would be best if I show you," and then instantly, you are all whisked away, and you. So Osterhagen and Kalish and Kaz and Giara, you're along with Naismith.
You all the player characters, basically.
All the player characters, for the sake of argument. And also that bloke who does the cooking on deck 3. For some reason he's there as well. I never liked him.
Isn't that supposed to be Shatner or something like that?
Maybe.
One of the stories was that the cook was supposed to be Shatner, but there you go.
So the all of you kind of your perception blanks, and you everything fades away. So you're suddenly frozen in place. You can't move. Your only perception is of your immediate sensation of your bodies. You're kind of trapped within your bodies, and you can feel what feels like pins and needles shooting through your fingers and your toes. And what feels like almost like an extreme migraine begins to pound away at you, but you can't see anything, and the ship kind of fades away around you, and then then the pain, the discomfort begins to dissipate, and you begin to feel kind of calm and peaceful, and then your eyesight begins to return, so light begins to reappear.
Is this like the first time when we were brought here?
Yeah, it is very similar. However, it's more intense, and because it's as I say, because it was unexpected, and because it was an individual thing, you kind of it took you by surprise, and as I say, was quite terrifying. Very briefly, and this all seems to happen in milliseconds. But your perception of time is distorted. So on the one hand, your brain tells you it can only have been seconds at most, but then it almost feels like it's been going on for hours because your perception has been so twisted. However, as I say, the pain and the discomfort begins to fade, and then your vision begins to come back, and you find yourselves you're on a vast stony plain, and all around you can see representations of the Tilikal architecture that you first saw on Candidate 3. So these tall towers with reaching into the sky. The sky is a deep sort of cobalt blue color, and in between these towers and across the landscape, you see the same flashes of blue light that you remember from Candidate 3. If you remember, there was the channels dug into the landscape. And as your perception comes back, you see Ash Tamalia stood in front of you, but all around there are thousands and thousands of beings. However, these are still translucent, and these still appear as if the image of Ash Tamalia that you encountered before. And if you look at that image that's on Roll20, that's kind of what you're seeing. So you see this landscape, and all around you are more of the Tilikal, and there are male and female. They're all wearing similar garb, but they're obviously distinct and individual, and there seem to be thousands of them as far as you can see, stretching across the landscape. And so it takes you. Obviously, you look around and kind of take stock of where you are, and disturbingly, these other Tilikal seem to they walk right through you, so they are kind of going about seem to be going about their business.
Are they actually aware of us or not?
No, they don't seem to be. They literally walk. Some of them literally walk right through you. But they're not because they just literally are on a course, and you happen to be in the way, and they just literally drift right through. You don't feel anything.
Does it feel like we're in mental projection there?
You can't tell. I mean, you can feel yourself. So if you kind of, without wishing to be crude, if you touch yourself, if you kind of, because again, your perception is very disorientated at the moment. But you feel your sense of self. You feel your body. You're aware that of your breathing, and you're aware of your heartbeat, and you're aware of your pulse. And you're aware of your physicality. You can, if you touch your hand, you're physical.
Beyond that, if I close my eyes and go through each of my senses, each of them come up as if I'm there.
Correct. So, to all intents and purposes, you are actually here.
Sorry.
And Ash Tamalia kind of looks on and seems to realise that you need a moment to kind of process.
Do we have tricorders on us?
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. No.
Are we able to make
But
contact?
I'm really glad you asked that question, because I was hoping somebody would ask that question. So I'm assuming that Osterhagen would have a tricorder on him at all times. I'm assuming that probably I'm pretty sure. I know Kalish would have weapons.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, as we know, Klingons have you've probably got 37 weapons stashed about your uniform, but you have no weapons. You have no tricorders. You have your comm badges.
I was going to say, can we make contact with the ship to see if we're still?
So you tap your comm badge and there is no response. It doesn't. There's no error. It just, you touch your comm badge and it does nothing. You just get nothing at all. So you have your uniforms. So again, if you look down at yourselves, you are wearing your uniforms.
Not our pajamas.
Yeah. What do Klingon pajamas look like? Just out of interest, I'd love to know.
Mm-hmm. I'm as the others touch their comm badges, I'm just going to wait a moment.
Yeah.
Concentrate on the fact that my comm badge works and touch it.
It don't. It doesn't work. But that's a good thought. Literally.
It wasn't a good thought. It didn't work.
Can I concentrate on Mike's badge to work rather than it for myself?
You can do so, but it makes no difference. It appears that wherever you are, the rules that of the other dimension don't seem to be in play here, and so you can concentrate as hard as you like, and you get nothing. Now, interestingly, also Osterhagen, just to preempt another question that I'm sure that you might have, is that you also have no psionic feel. So as a Vulcan, Vulcans are psionic. You have some, although most Vulcan telepathy is touch telepathy.
Yeah.
You're feeling, you're not hearing the kind of, you're aware that your psychic abilities don't seem to be there, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You don't know how you know, but again, if you want to go to the lengths of, trying to mind meld with one of the others, I can tell you it won't work. You just know it's not there.
No.
So Ashtamalia registers all of this as you're looking around. She sort of sees all of these emotions going through your faces. And once
computer end program.
Good one. Yeah, funnily enough, an archway opens and the bloke from the starbase goes, got ya.
got you guys.
Yeah, so no, that doesn't work. So Ashtamalia looks at you, and as you sort of calm down, because she sees all this going through you, sees you tapping your badges and everything, and she says, "Friends, please, I understand your concern, but everything is fine now that you have come. You have such courage to enter our prison, and we call ourselves the Displaced, and we have been trapped here for many, many eons, trying to escape, hoping against hope for someone on the outside to come to us. We've sometimes been successful in touching minds in your realm, in your dimension. However, usually those connections were so brief or so fleeting that they were of little use. The sad truth is that we were confined here by our fellow Tilikal. We cannot really blame them, because they were the ones suffering from some form of madness. We failed them. We could not cure their suffering. And in their deranged state, they managed to trick us into this universe, using the technology that our civilization had achieved before any of your peoples had even evolved beyond your most insignificant animal ancestors." And she waves her arm around the landscape, gesturing at the technology that you've already encountered.
I think Kalish is going to get a little flustered, and she's going to ask her, "Have you doomed us to your own fate?"
Your concern is valid, my friend. However, I have every confidence that you can return to your own realm and hopefully achieve the same result for us. For all we wish is to be able to return to our previous state of existence. For in this realm, our Adiri, our very essence, has stagnated and atrophied for the countless millennia that we've been trapped here. And this representation of our former home serves us as a means of maintaining some of our perspective. However, it does not substitute for the reality of our previous existence. And this dimension, this realm, over time wears on us. And sooner or later, we will be wiped from existence, finally. And we must escape, if only to assist our brethren who are left behind in the other realm. If any of them survive, if any of them have managed to live out these millennia, they may still need our help before they become a danger to themselves and possibly to other beings. It's critical that that you can bring us home, and I throw myself and the rest of the displaced on your mercy and your efforts to try and bring us back to the other dimension.
So just a point of clarification, what you're saying is you were found guilty of a crime and have been imprisoned
in the Phantom Zone.
In a Phantom Zone.
Do you know what, Kevin? I'm glad. I was just literally about to say that.
As part of that punishment. So
yes, and you will kneel before Ashtamalia.
So before we get to the stage of helping you escape, we want to have some kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Guarantee that you aren't actually proper criminals that deserve to be here. If you get
okay, she says we are not criminals. We, as I stated, there was an affliction which affected many of our fellow Tilikal. They tricked us into this dimension. We've committed no crime. In fact, the concern I have is that, again, time passes differently for us here, and we have no way of knowing in which state our fellow Tilikal in your realm have reached. And it may very well be that sometime soon, by your perception, or perhaps it's even already happened, is that if these Tilikal reach a state of derangement, of insanity, whereby they spread out further into the galaxy and beyond, they could pose a massive threat. And I'm afraid, my friends, your primitive technologies, your primitive weapons will not be able to prevent that tide, and it may already be too late. The only crime we were guilty of was trying to help our fellow beings, and unfortunately our poor sick fellow Tilikal responded to our kindness by trapping us in this dimension, which even now drains our life force and before too long will cause us to succumb entirely. The only chance... Sorry, go on.
There's no chance of rolling to see if I believe her or not. A convincing issue.
To be honest, you can, but the problem is she's yeah, sure, you can do. Of course you can, yeah. Absolutely, yeah, that's absolutely fair. Why don't you do that? Why don't you make an insight and security?
Insight and security.
Right, what did we? So I didn't see that. What did you get?
1-1.
1-1.
And a
Okay.
4.
So, yeah. So you are convinced that she is convinced.
Okay.
So you believe that she is telling you the truth as she believes the truth to be. Now, you could argue that. Okay, so let's look at this. So you the evidence you have is you know that the Tilikal are trapped here because presumably if they were not trapped here, they could return and wouldn't have gone to all this trouble to try and get you to come and help them. So there is that to consider.
Yeah.
And so from your perspective, all you can tell is, and again, you are at a slight disadvantage here because you're not, without your kind of telepathic I mean, Vulcans are not empaths, right? So you're not like Betazoids who can sense emotion, and in fact, obviously, emotion is alien to you. So your purely logical interpretation of this and everything that you see is that she's telling you the truth, but obviously the truth is a subjective thing. So you don't know. You know, she certainly believes what she's told you, and she seems genuine in the belief that she needs to get back to the future, no, to reality, to assist her, you know, the rest of her species, and obviously to release the Tilical who are still trapped here in this pocket universe.
But she's talking about Millennium, so we've not encountered Tilicar, have we? The other side.
Not to your knowledge. Not to your knowledge. However, it's also worth noting that she, as she's pointed out, that and as Elias confirmed, that the passage, the perception of time, and the passage of time here is different, and so you know, for all you know, this could have happened last week. I mean, they've said millennia, but they don't know, and you don't know how much time has passed back in you know, back in the real in the real world that you've been here. You've only been here for about a day, you know, less than 24 hours in your perception. But again, she's you know, for her perception, it could be longer, it could be, you know, it could be thousands of years. You just don't know. Is the truth of it?
Does she have any idea?
I beg your pardon?
Does she have any idea how long she's been there?
You can ask her, and she simply says, "We have been here for, you know, to our perception, we have been here for millennia. Our you know, our energies have dissipated over time. But she left a watch behind in the real dimension, so she's got no way of telling, really."
Okay, I'm going to go and ask her. Okay.
Yep.
So, do you have any knowledge of basically what the underground caverns and stuff that we found on Organ 3 and the other planets and stuff? Does any of that ring any bells with you? Does
the sort of ancient technology we found?
Yeah.
Yes, I mean she confirms that yes, this is all Tilical technology. And if you actually, that's interesting. That's an interesting point, Mike. So you, yes, thank you for bringing that up. So,
do you? I mean, were you able to move planets? Which obviously,
that is perhaps the least of our abilities. That was a simple technological feat. In our time, we had achieved much. We had.
What were you trying to do with these facilities?
Many things. The technology existed to facilitate the growth of our civilization. To where a planet where life could not exist on a planet, then we would simply move the planet to provide a better situation for life to flourish, where it would suit our purpose and where it would suit our needs. And you know, our technology, and again, our technology was such that the bounds of normal time and space were of little relevance to us. We did not need ships such as you travel in, such, you know, frail technology that you rely upon. We were able to cross entire universes where appropriate, and it is exactly this technology that enabled our brethren to trap us in this dimension.
So, is there, when we get back, is there any way for us to find out whether or not your brethren that trapped you here are indeed roaming our universe? How can we make sure? Because look, so this is off. I'm not saying this to her. My concern is that these guys are a superpower that used to exist but don't exist anymore, and bringing them back will really disrupt the status quo of everything. So maybe their time has passed, and maybe bringing them back isn't the greatest thing. But if they are the only ones that can stop the other Tidikal that are needing to be stopped, then they will need to be brought back. But we need to figure out whether or not.
You figure missing something else, Karen. The only
What's that?
buggers that can get us back.
But she has sort of stated that getting ourselves back is easier than releasing them. So we may be able to get ourselves back. And
I'm going to give you 50. I'd give you 50 XPs there, Karen. If it was mine to give in this system. Exactly right. You've hit. I'm glad, that's a very perceptive point and well made. Absolutely right. Just to clarify that, exactly what she is suggesting. What you've picked up. What Kalish with her kind of
paranoid
threat analysis instinct, if you like, because as we know, Klingons see everybody as a potential threat, right?
Yeah,
that's the Klingon mindset. And you have correctly assessed that what she's saying is that she needs you. She needs you more than you need her at this point. As Kevin's rightly said, she's implied that the getting you back or getting yourselves back is easier than it will be to return the Tidikal. And she picks up on your, again, she's very perceptive. And she gestures around at the Tidikal who are assembled around you. As I mentioned, there's kind of this large number of these Tidikal just sort of wandering about. And she says, my friends, look at my fellow Tidikal, and you notice that when you look at them more closely, you notice that they are they seem very docile, and they seem very so. Whereas she seems quite vital and intelligent, these representations of the Tidikal that you see around you seem to be quite kind of docile and almost I don't know how to, almost like trance-like almost. They're kind of drifting about.
Drugged.
Yeah. I mean, they're not drugged, but yes, that's right. They're kind of It's like Blake 7 episode 1. Do you know what I mean? They're kind of wandering about with drugs in their system, keeping them passive. And that's definitely the vibe you get from them. Is that, but it seems almost like they're kind of fading away in this existence, in this dimension. This kind of, if she's more representative of what the Tidikal were when they were physical and viable, these other beings seem to be kind of on the, seem to be drifting away. And she sort of gestures at them and she says, I'm afraid, my friends, that this manifestation that we've shown you of our state has given you a prosaic conception of our Adiri, or our soul. You cannot simply take us aboard your ship like so many refugees. We have been attuned to the physical parameters of this universe by the process by which we were stranded here, and even your transporter device is not compatible with our energies, and so the only way that we can be returned from this dimension is by using the advanced the Tidikal technology that sent us here in the first place, can retrieve our Adiri and reunite it with our physical bodies. The only thing you can do is to find assessors who can assist you so that you can access our transference machines from the other side. The assessors were caretakers of our race, and they were subservient to our species. However, they are loyal, and they are a resource that could assist you in this great endeavor. But once again, my friends, I will be, my people and I will be reliant upon your good efforts to retrieve us back to where we belong.
So we need to go back to our universe, our dimension, activate your machinery and bring you back from there.
That is correct. The circumstances that brought you here, that arose in the system that you have designated Candidate 3, were unique. There were many different variables that had to come together to allow myself and the rest of the displaced concentrating together to breach the barrier of the pocket universe and draw you here. This is why I am so fascinated by your Starship's technology, that I am unable to reverse this process and send you home. You must, in fact, find your own way. But the potential is within you. You have the capability to do this, and it is within your grasp. And with that, you instantly return to the Vigilant, and you're back in the engine room. And the only thing that's changed is that Ashtamalia is not with you. And this time, the process that drew you into her sort of simulated universe is much less traumatic. And in fact, you're literally instantaneously you're back in the engineering section, and the sort of crew around you are looking confused by the fact that you've kind of reappeared. And after questioning them, it turns out that you'd all kind of just you'd basically frozen still for about a minute.
Right.
So it sounds as if you didn't physically leave the space. You all kind of froze, and then you just literally, reanimated again.
Right.
So you're back in the engineering section on the Vigilant, and you have probably some questions, and some things to consider.
So I'd like to bring to the table sort of what I was touching on before, is that we need to know more about this race before we introduce them back into our universe, right? Because if they are a superpower that are going to enslave the rest of us because they don't see us as she's already hinted at, our feeble technology. She didn't quite say feeble technology, but she did definitely imply that they are so far advanced to us. Once they've had our help and they've returned, I think we really need to understand this race. We need access to their libraries, to their social media platforms, to see what sort of people they are before we consider bringing them back.
Yeah, because what we don't know is whether they're actually bad people, and the reason they're here is because they fucking deserve to be here.
Yeah, that too.
They describe the assessors as being subservient to them.
Yeah. Glad you picked up on that. Yeah.
But also the word assessor kind of implies auditor or judge, or they have been assessed and they've been sent to jail.
Don't forget, you encountered an assessor. If you remember, you encountered Assessor Tredick on the Candidate 3 planet.
Yeah.
And he seemed to be there to serve the Tilikal, right? He was guarding their physical, or at least some of their physical forms. And he was kind of, helping you to help them, essentially. So
yep.
You've certainly encountered one assessor, and what she said implies that there are more. Obviously, she used the word assessors rather than assessor. So that does imply that there may be more.
But I'm assuming we haven't come across any of their species before. They're not a species that's familiar to the 24th century.
Yep.
So can we cross-reference their attributes and language they use with all known and unknown species that are in our database to see if actually we've come across a group that are close to this but weren't actually called the Tilikal, or we didn't know what their name was?
I don't think there are any unknown species in our database.
You can certainly do that. Obviously the first obvious cross reference is that this technology that you have encountered throughout the Shackleton Expanse. Can you still hear me, by the way? Because I think I've just adjusted the volume on my headphones. Can you still hear me? Okay.
I can hear you. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, cool. So obviously the technology you know about. So the first obvious cross reference is that there's instances of the technology that you have encountered already throughout the Shackleton Expanse. In terms of species, the nearest thing that fits the parameters is probably there's this legend of the Preservers, which is a species, or is a theorized. In fact, it's not theorized because they were encountered by the Enterprise. Yes, and representatives from all the major races. But basically, the Preservers were a species that existed, again, millions of years ago, and it was the Preservers who ended up moving. They kind of seeded planets. So that the reason that many species throughout the galaxy are all humanoid is because they all came from a common species that went out and seeded different variations, genetic engineering, if you like, on other planets, which is why, everybody in the Alpha Quadrant's got bumpy noses, but they still look like humans, basically. That was the way of explaining that. However, the Preservers did not have, as far as we know, did not have a technology similar to what the Tiliqal have exhibited. So their technology was more to do with genetic engineering, genetic manipulation.
If what she says is true, these guys, the Tiliqali, were rose to power after the Preservers had come through the galaxy.
I would agree. The other species that springs to mind also in your cross-referencing is the Iconians, who were another very ancient civilization, and they created a series of basically warp gates. So they travelled, and as we heard that Ash Tamalia had made reference to the fact that they travelled without ships. They didn't need ships to travel. So the Iconians did something similar with Iconian gateways, which are basically like stargates. But again, their civilization, again, I got the impression it is much more recent, although it's still millions of, or hundreds of thousands of years ago. They're not so ancient. And again,
I mean, theoretically, the Iconians could have developed their technology from the remains of the Tiliqali.
Correct.
So it's possible then, in fact, that the Shackleton Expanse was once the empire of the Tiliqal.
That would seem to be the implication, because, as you say, certainly the majority of the technology that's been discovered, and again, bearing in mind that the Shackleton Expanse has only been, I think, only about 5 or 10% of it has been explored at this point.
Yeah.
So there's a whole vast because the Shackleton Expanse lies kind of beyond the borders of all of the major. And of course, have to remember three-dimensional space. So although you can look at a map of the, Star Trek galaxy, and you've got the 4 quadrants and everything else, but the point is the Shackleton Expanse kind of lies beneath that and extends out from it.
So if we go back, we need to find a centre, or their main city. Their main planet, or their capital planet. So if we can get back, that would be the goal, wouldn't it? Find their main city to look for a Hall of Records.
I guess the other thing that's worth mentioning is that she's also confirmed. So to address Kerin's concerns, is also the fact that she's again has made it clear that they cannot get back without your help. So ultimately, you have the ability to investigate this and obviously, you report back to Starfleet, and you. As you say, this is a decision that's probably above you, certainly above your pay grade. Ultimately, I guess your responsibility is to get back and to report on this.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
And then if necessary, then it means that Starfleet puts resources into investigating the Tiliqal. But also similarly, if there is indeed a branch of the Tiliqal who are still physically in our universe and are a threat, maybe the best defense against that threat is to be able to harness the Tiliqal technology, or at least learn how to neutralize it. But the good thing is, she's all but admitted that she cannot, or they cannot get back.
In our hands, whether we get to assess them. It's up to us whether they come back or not.
I think tracking down some more assessors would be a prime objective.
objective to get him back.
But does that feel like a faux pas on her part, or could it be a deliberate ruse to tell us that she can't get back without our help?
Well, that's a good question, and I'm certainly not going to answer that.
So it could be a bluff. It could be a double bluff. She could be totally honest. She could actually be So what it could possibly be is, in fact, this race of Tilikar are trapped somewhere in the Shackle Expanse, and they are able to mentally project this idea that they're trapped in another dimension, and they are using us to actually go and release them, and therefore they go over and take over the universe.
Yeah, well,
let's be honest. She could be a Q, and she could just be fucking with us.
It's true.
or that guy in the bar on the shackle on the Starbase could still be messing with your heads in the holodeck. You know, you just don't know.
That's it. He's got carried away.
You had a very big. There was a very big party last week. You wanted a bit too much to drink, and next thing you know, you're in another dimension,
It was a
deciding
gathering.
the fate of two universes. But you know,
It was a gathering, and it was just a quiz.
yeah, you don't get this shit in D&D, right? You know.
Yeah, I can't see them pulling off. You wake up and it's like 10 years back in the past, where the very first adventure you went to, you're still trapped in that. I can't see them really doing that, because that would really be would really annoy some people. It was all a dream kind of stuff.
You remember that?
Yeah. You step out of the shower and it never happened.
God, yeah.
Do you for those of you that were imprisoned on Edom,
Yeah.
you're still there.
Yeah.
There you go. I mean, again, this is all exactly right, and this is absolutely. The core of your dilemma here is that as you pointed out, you know, she's told you've heard this from her side. She's given you her, you know, she obviously has power, but it seems that the ability that she had to take you into that was she's got drawing on the power of the Tilikal in this dimension, and you know, you get the impression that they seem to be, whatever the reality of their you know, being stranded here, they certainly seem to be diminishing. So there's that to consider. There is the fact that, you know, again, as you say, it could be that you know, you have to assume that they can't get back without you, because otherwise why wouldn't they have done that?
Yeah, but that could be a case of they want us to help them, to bring them through time to our time.
Yeah, it all could be true. And again, you don't know, you know, assuming you can get back, spoiler alert, yes you can, you know, assuming you can get back, you don't know what the time implications are, because as she said, you know, and again, you've noticed it yourselves that and you know, Elias has backed this up, that time here is perceived differently, and so I think it all points to the fact that you have to try and get back one way or the other, and then you have to then your first responsibility is to report all of this back to Starfleet in whatever form it exists when you return, and you know, then there are questions to be asked about what to do about this. You know, it could be that these are a species in need and that they need help, or it could be that they're the biggest threat that have ever been encountered, and both of those could potentially be true. But the bottom line is you can't do anything about it here.
Yep.
So I guess to focus the mind a little bit, I think the next thing we need to think about is how you get back. So,
and she couldn't help with that other than saying the power is within you, right?
You have the power. Yeah. She basically said that. Yeah. You know, you have, and you have the potential. And don't forget, she was on your ship, and she was looking at your ship, and she's implied to you that you have the capability to get back.
Oh yeah, we pushed the get back button.
Yeah, there you go.
I'll
Why don't we
my
think
log
about
book
getting
3
back?
times
It
and
could
say
be
there's no place like home.
Exactly.
There's no place like
There you go. And as if by magic,
can you replicate some ruby slippers?
Well, I'm sure you could. Yeah.
Could we get to warp speed 88 miles an hour?
0.8 is what you need.
0.8.
So I mean, yeah, I mean, let's honestly, let's you know, what I did. What do you want to try? Because ultimately, she's she seems to have, as I say, she seems to have disappeared, at least for now. And so throw some idea. What do you want to? How do you want to tackle this? What do you want to try and do?
I want to look at the energy logs to see where we were in our universe.
Yeah.
Versus where we were in this universe, to see what energy was expended. To see then if it's a case of we can reverse that. If it's part of the thought process. If there was lots of energy expended at that point.
Hang on, yeah, she did say that there was a specific set of circumstances that enabled them to do this.
So if we spitball,
we've got to have records. Let's see whether we can simulate it.
Yeah, we want to replicate that, as Mike said, replicate the set of circumstances, if possible, or figure out what the circumstances were to see if we can then move on.
Right. Okay. So why don't we? Okay. Yes, you can certainly do that. So I think, Kevin, you've got a what's your edge for? Is it testing a theory? Just remind me about that.
No, I've got testing a theory and
talent rather. Sorry, it's a talent, isn't it?
Yeah, testing a theory.
Sorry, I had my Savage Worlds head on there for a minute. It's not an edge; it's a talent.
Testing a theory. I've got a harebrained idea, and it might just work. Can't find that somewhere. Can't see my roll.
Okay. So I think what we want to do here. So what your plan, as I understand it, is you want to analyse the readings from when you came through the dimensional breach last time, and see if you can replicate them. Is that essentially it?
Looking for pointers. If you look at readings, you go, actually, you were doing X speed, and the temperature of the core was at this.
Yeah.
And that's just trying as a process of elimination.
Okay, so what I want you to do then, Kevin, you're going to you and Giara are going to cooperate on this one, because this is a kind of an engineering science thing. So I want one of you to take the lead. So you can decide between you who takes the lead. I don't really mind, because what it's going to be, it's going to be a insight and engineering or science task. So I would suggest whoever has the highest combined result of those two. So who's got the highest insight and science, or insight and engineering, would be the one to take the lead.
Insight is 10, engineering is 5, and science is 3.
So you've got 15. Kevin, what's your insight and science?
I can't get that. The best I can get is 12.
Okay.
Insight is 12. Insight and engineering is 10.
Okay, so what's going to happen then is Giara's going to you go to your so you're still you guys are all still in engineering, obviously, because this is where you've returned, and Giara, you go to your console, which is like the main sort of console at the warp core. So what you do is you bring up the you can obviously bring up the logs from the transition, and you're running through them. So what I want you to do is you're going to analyze those.
Yeah.
So to do that, so this is going to be like a gated challenge here, basically. So I want you to first of all make a roll. So if you remember how to do that, what you do is you click on insight engineering.
I've clicked.
And then have you got any focuses that you think would help here? So
yeah, I've got warp drive.
Perfect. So click on the button to make sure that you've got focus. So that's good. And then now don't forget, you've also got 3 momentum in your pool, which you can spend if you would like to do so. So what you can do is you can create opportunity, which basically means that you can buy an additional D20. So basically, the first one will cost you. So if you want to spend 1 point of momentum, then that will buy you an additional dice. And this is going to be this first task is going to be a difficulty 4. So this is quite difficult. This is very difficult, in fact. And as I say, Kevin is going to assist you. So as long as you get at least 1 success from your attempt, then he will be able to roll to support you. But you need to get 1 success. So I would, as I say, what you can do is you can buy additional dice because you've got momentum to spend. You've got focus, so that's all good.
So I'm just going to do a 1 task roll, isn't it?
That's right. But we'll get Giara to roll first. So do you want to buy an extra dice, did you say?
Please, yep.
Right. So so if you change that number to 3, so where it says the task roll, you click on 3 instead of 2. And then what you need to do is simply roll your dice, and then we'll see how you get on.
Remind me what challenge dice means.
Oh, challenge dice is only used when it's basically for damage.
Okay, that's fine.
So you only roll those if you attack somebody with a weapon does challenge dice damage. So all you're worried about is the d20s. Spot on. That's 4.
Wow.
Brilliant. Well
Nice.
done. Right. So Kevin, you can now roll. So if you want to just roll to support, 5 successes. Brilliant.
Beautiful.
So that gives you 1 dice back. So your momentum pool goes back up to 3. And you have managed to. So you've basically crunched the numbers, and you have managed to kind of simulate the transition, and you can see that you can do this. But what you're going to have to do is you are going to have to push the engines are going to be pushed to the absolute limit. And bearing in mind the Defiant class is not renowned for its
one piece
it's considered to, the good thing is that the Defiant class is considered to be overpowered for its size. So actually, the engines can put out power that's more appropriate for a cruiser. Whereas it's an escort, it's a small vessel, but the engines are actually more powerful than the ship needs. Essentially,
Structure the ship hold together if I do that.
there you go. There's the trick. So, Kevin, what I want you to do now, you can use. I'm going to give you additional dice now. So I'm going to let you lead the next challenge because you've got the talent of test a theory.
Yeah.
So, because you've succeeded at the previous task, you can now make. I'm going to let you make a insight and science roll. You get 1 additional d20 for free because that's your talent. So what's happened is you and Giara have consulted on this these readings. You've come up with a what you think is a theoretical intermix ratio that's going to be enough to get you back, and you just now need to essentially run simulations to prove that it's not going to blow the ship apart.
So I roll 3 tasks.
So you just roll 3 dice because you get an additional dice for free. Okay, and you have got momentum, so if you want to buy an additional dice as well, because this is also going to be a difficulty 4 challenge. And don't get me wrong, people. Difficulty 4 is really hard.
Am I able to support in this?
Yes. So yes, you're gonna do what he did for you in reverse. So assuming that Kevin gets at least 1 success, then you can also roll to support. Right. So you got 2 successes. Right, so what you can do, first of all, let's get Giara to roll. So, Giara, if you just roll 1d20, target number is 15.
So it's 1. Is it still complicated?
It's going to be insight and engineering. You've still got your focus, and if you just take those down to 1 dice, though, so you're only rolling 1 dice because you're supporting.
Yeah!
Spot on. There you go, spot on. Perfect. Okay. So you've managed to, between the pair of you, you've now managed to successfully. So what you've done is you've analysed the readings, you've come up with a program, and you've run a test simulation. And in your simulation, the ship doesn't blow itself to pieces. And this this has taken you, between the pair of you, it's taken about an hour to kind of go through this, and all the while you've had so you start giving orders to your engineering people to get stuff in place, and as I say, you've run simulations and you're pretty confident that this is going to work. So what's going to happen next is but obviously Naismith is lurking around, and you've reported to him, and he's said, look, we don't have any real choice here. Whatever happens, we have to at least make the attempt to get back. We can't stay here indefinitely. So he says, right, when you're prepared, we're going to make the attempt to get back. So that is simply going to be basically that. You've done the hard work now, right? You've done the calculations. You've set the ship up.
Shall we download our logs and put a
Hey,
into a
prepare a log boy. Yeah, prepare a record boy.
Disaster boy.
a
Yeah.
photon torpedo and leave the photon torpedo here
Yeah.
as a emergency beacon in case we blow up.
Yeah, that's an absolutely spot on idea, and that is very much a Star Trek idea. And I'd give you some XPs if I could, but that's not the way this works. But yes,
Might be fine.
And it wouldn't be a successful game if we didn't use a photon torpedo somehow.
No,
right.
I've been waiting, can't we?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. No, I will give you. Yeah, I'll give you. I am going to give you extra momentum because, as I say, I think that deserves. That's again very much. I applaud you very much in the spirit of the setting, and that's quite right. So yeah, you do exactly that. So Naismith, all departments basically prepare. You basically download all of the ship's relevant logs to this device. This is a common process when you're going into battle. And you literally can eject a torpedo and it will stay here as so in case anything happens and anyone else reaches this dimension, they'll be able to ascertain everything that's happened. And of course, the ship records pretty much everything that happens. So it's a pretty complete record of the situation. So all around the ship, then we get tense scenes of again, my favourite thing, which is crew members running down corridors looking very serious, going about their business. No one quite knows what they're doing, but they always look very serious when they're doing it. And there's kind of yellow alert klaxons are going off, and again, there's engineers that you've got kind of panels open, and you're kind of rerouting the EPS conduits, and you're preparing all of the stuff you can do. And Giara's directing all of this from engineering. And again, Osterhagen is constantly running simulations on his tricorder, just kind of double, triple checking the calculations. But you are both you're both as confident as you can be that this is going to work.
I'm going to go up to the bridge and start looking on the flight plan.
Yeah. And exactly right. So basically, what you're going to have to do, Kaz, is you're going to have to basically get the ship up to. You're going to have to basically avoid crystalline structures and give the ship a clear run up.
88
miles per hour, exactly right. So that's going to be on you to get the ship moving, and then obviously they can then instigate the warp bubble, and then if the theories are correct. You should then breach through the dimensional barrier and return to your own dimension, or the mirror universe. Whatever comes first. Who knows? So if you all suddenly grow goatees, then you might have a problem.
That'd be interesting with me, wouldn't it?
It would, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like I say, everybody. Well, probably on Kalush, they probably wouldn't notice. It's probably good in the beard. But,
now goats.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So. Okay, back right. So Kaz, you're on the bridge. Naismith is in his chair, sort of drumming his fingers on the armrest in a slightly annoying manner because there isn't much he can do. And again, similarly with Kalish, I would imagine there's not much you can do really to help. You're probably pacing about, looking threatening. I would imagine.
She's ordering all of her staff to do different things, but none of it is relevant.
Exactly. Yeah. You go change the daisies in the commander's ready room. But sir, just do it. And after a few minutes, you get the word from engineering that you're good to go. And right, so Kaz, you have got a task here. Your task is going to be a difficulty 3. Your task is not as difficult because the theoretics have been worked out, but you've still got to plot a course to give the ship enough of a run up in this odd place to get fired up to speed. So if you want to I guess it's up to you how you want to sell this to me. So you can go with daring and con, or you can go with whichever you've got a better chance with. I would suggest.
Let's have a look. I'm certainly going to use Helm Op as my focus.
Yep. So make sure you've got a focus selected, and make sure you've got
focus used. Yes.
Right. Do you want to buy some more dice? Because again, you've got momentum on the table.
Might be an idea.
Okay, so how many do you want to buy? Because you can buy up to. You've got 3 points of momentum. So the first one will cost you 1 point. The second one will cost you an additional 2. So for all 3 momentum, you can get. You'll have a total of 4 dice to roll.
You think,
And
guys?
the computer's
All or
going to
nothing?
assist, isn't it?
Say again.
The ship will assist, won't it?
Ship will assist, yeah, because it is a helm. It is like a ship task. So yeah, the ship will assist as well.
It's control and con, isn't it?
Can Naismith use his leadership ability to?
Do you know what? That's a great idea. Let's do that. Let me just have a little look.
Yeah, come on, Naismith. Pull your finger out, mate.
Yeah, come on, Naismith. Bloody hell. Sit around doing nothing all bloody day long.
Steve.
Right, yeah.
Just for the record, I'm also going to use precise evasion, which is a talent, but that will only come in once other things if I need it. Actually.
Okay, so you have got Naismith has got a talent which is called Advisor. So what I'm going to get him to do is I'm going to get him to make a roll to see whether he can essentially kind of motivate, steady the nerves, whatever. And assuming he succeeds, what he can basically do is that'll give Kaz the opportunity to re-roll a d20 for free. So basically, Naismith sort of comes up to you, Kaz, and sort of pats you on the head, gives you some catnip, gives you a bowl of milk. Comes over and speaks to you and says, you've got this, Kaz. Take us home. And gives you a little bit of motivation. He goes back and sits in his chair and tries to stop drumming his hands on the armrest.
Or you're out of Starfleet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
we're all out of
Starfleet. Screw this up. Right, so you have that ability. You have that. So basically, you get the opportunity to re-roll a d20. So, like I say, you can. Are you going to first of all? Are you going to buy any more dice? I need to know the answer to that.
So my base dice roll is 3 dice. Yeah.
Well, not at the moment. It's 2 dice. It's always 2d20. But the ship will get to roll 1. Don't forget.
Yeah.
So you get to roll 2. Assuming you succeed, the ship will get to roll 1. But you can also buy extra dice because there's momentum available.
Buy all the dice. We need this, don't we? Just buy everything.
Okay, so I'm going to take it. So right, so you spend 3 points of momentum, which gives you 2. So now your base dice roll is 4d20.
Yeah.
Okay, and then as I say, if you fail any of those, you can re-roll one of them for free because Naismith has assisted you, and also the ship will get to roll a dice as well. So,
right.
So make sure you've got 4 dice ticked. Make sure you've got focus ticked, and then whenever you're ready, fire away.
The place like home.
No place like home.
Ooh.
Hey, nicely done. Yeah,
5.
nailed it.
And the ship.
Right, the ship is going to roll. Hold on. So the ship is going to use engines and con, and it will roll 1, and it will roll. Oh, Vigilant got 1 as well, so that's 6 successes.
Nice.
And you can re-roll 1d20 there, I believe.
Yes,
I'll re-roll 1.
So just roll 1d20 and just see what that does, because that's the free re-roll you get anyway.
Oh,
hey, nice.
Brilliant.
6, 7, 8. Bloody hell. Well, okay.
Is that all you've got?
I know, that's pretty easy. Another dimension. I'll take you another dimension. I'll laugh at it.
You mean you could have done this earlier?
I know. You could have been back weeks ago. Right, so let's narrate what happens. So, okay. Right, so Kaz, you take the ship into motion. And as you do so, the engineering, the Giara and Naismith initiate this. Not Naismith, Giara and Osterhagen initiate their program. Yeah, go ahead.
Seeing that it's such a great success,
yeah,
I'm going to barrel roll the ship as we come out.
Of course you are.
Of course. We'd expect nothing less.
You get the effect of the ship coming back into normal space. I'm going to barrel roll it.
Yeah, perfect. So, the Vigilant, from the perspective of the camera, the Vigilant kind of jumps into warp in the other dimension, and around if you were to see the dimension, the warp bubble begins to kind of show off rainbow of different colours that not normally are seen in this effect. It's basically the dimensional barrier begins to waver, and with a kind of almost like a sigh of relief, the Vigilant disappears from the other dimension, and then you reappear in what seems to be normal space, and the ship kind of, as I say, from the perspective of the viewer, the ship comes out of warp, and drops down to impulse, and you are back in the what appears to be normal space. And as
myself
you
a goatee.
say again,
I'm checking myself for a goatee.
yeah, no goatees. And as you specified, I'm happy to report that as you breach the dimensional barrier, you throw the ship into a barrel roll, like a victory roll, and you see that you have, as sensors begin to return to normal, and in fact this transition is a lot smoother than the one before. And having said that, the warp core has kind of gone into a controlled shutdown, which was part of your program, because you were pushing it to such extreme lengths. As soon as the ship emerges from the warp transition, it kind of, as I say, you drop to normal space, and the ship barrel rolls in a graceful manner. But in engineering, the kind of, there are warnings going off because they're kind of, you've redlined the reactors, but everything's under control. The warp core is stable, and Giara and her team begin to kind of rush around and do diagnostics to make sure that the thing's not going to blow up. But you don't need to roll for that, because that's definitely your thing. Your team are very well trained, and they kind of go about their business. And you, as the display returns, you see that you have in fact returned to what remains of the Candidate 3 system. So you're on the outskirts of that system, but your navigational computers kind of kick in, and it confirms. So you can see the devastation that this system has gone through. Essentially, the planets have been, the 2 planets have essentially been destroyed, and so that there's plenty of debris about. But however, you're on the fringes of the system, and the good thing is that would obviously tell you that
Romulans buggered off.
there's no sign of Romulans. In fact, as you reappear, you get a hail coming in from the USS Bonhomme Richard, which is still surveying the system, and you get a kind of a message from Captain Blaine on the USS Bonhomme Richard, who's like, "This is Bonhomme Richard to Vigilant. Come in, urgent." And so Naismith opens up the channel and says, "Oh, Captain Blaine, good to see you." And Blaine sort of replies with, "What the hell happened to you guys? You've been gone for days." And this seems to confirm that you've been gone for a period, but you're back. And then
do we know how long we've been? Do we know how long exactly we've been gone? Because
yes, certainly. So you could ask them, and of course it basically you've been essentially gone for 3 days.
Okay,
Steve, we trust you, but we're going to run every test possible to make sure we are back.
We trust you, but we don't trust you. Okay, let me summarize very.
There's no need to run the mechanics of it. I just want you to know that we are going to run the tests.
Of course you are.
And we do trust you, Steve.
Of course you are.
Yeah.
Right, that. So you've returned. So basically, over the next couple of hours, Giara and the rest of the crew, you kind of run diagnostics, and the ship is beat up, obviously because of what's happened, but it's functional. The warp core, everything systems all seem to be good, at least functional enough to get you back to Narendra Station, and you basically, yes, you certainly check all your records. So the star charts, the navigational systems confirm that if you want to go as far as checking the positions of the stars. It all bears out the fact that you have been gone for approximately 72 hours from the perception of the crew on the Bonham Richard. So what happened was the Bonham Richard had obviously all the ships had evacuated the system when the two planets collided, and of course Vigilant disappeared. So once that initial collision had occurred and things had calmed down a bit, the Bonham Richard had returned to the outskirts of the system and was basically scanning for survivors, looking for lifeboats, anything like that, because obviously the other Starfleet vessels had evacuated when this was all going. Everyone had sort of basically buggered off when this all happened. If you remember, the Romulans evacuated, and the rest of the Starfleet vessels have returned to Narendra Station once it was clear that the Vigilant wasn't around. We know there was no sign of the Vigilant, and there'd been no other communication from Ashtamalia, because if you remember, there was the signal that everybody, that the fleet saw. But once there was no, there was no evidence. Basically, the system is completely normal, apart from the fact that these two planets had collided. And so the Bonham Richard has just been lurking about, just picking up any stragglers, picking up any survivors. And so now that you have returned, the two ships will return. So after a period that you deem to be appropriate, that when you're satisfied that everything is as it should be, you can then return to Narendra Station. And that, gentlemen and lady, is where we are going to leave it.
Before you do that, she said that they'd been gone a millennium.
Yes. So she said millennia, implying more than one. But
as a minimum, that is 3,000 years from now. If 72 hours has passed, and how long we were there? A day?
To your perception, you were there for about a day, but you were actually gone for about 3 days.
So a millennium is 1,000 years.
Yeah.
So as a minimum, they have been there 3,000 years.
Yeah, and it's more likely to be 9,000 years if you assume everything's 3 times longer than it appears.
So if we use that as a benchmark for when we start looking,
that's an excellent point.
The only fly in that ointment is the fact that he was zoned out. We went somewhere else.
Yeah, but it's
to the best. Don't forget though, the engineering crew told you that you basically you sort of phased out for about 2 minutes. You weren't gone, So if you remember, your bodies didn't your bodies didn't go anywhere. Just that your consciousness seemed to go somewhere.
But it's a
benchmark.
And we can go through the records that we removed from that planet.
Yeah. The other thing, of course, is now we know what the specific thing is. We can travel back. We can go back to that dimension because we know how to travel there.
Well, you certainly could. Yeah, you certainly could try. You've got a. I mean, obviously the method has been recorded. You've recorded the method, so certainly. But for now, the episode ends with the two ships returning to Narendra Station, and obviously there are hails coming in from Narendra Station. Obviously pleased that you're back, but you have no doubt that your immediate future will consist of a lot of debriefing, and so.
What do you mean you're taking off my holiday entitlement? What?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. You've just given up. You've taken 3 days of leave.
Yeah.
Right. So, guys. So that's where this scenario finally ends. Thank you very much for bearing with it. Obviously, this we would have concluded it a few weeks back, but it's a good place to end. It's a good place to end the year. The ship is back. You've succeeded in your mission. You've returned to Narendra Station with information about what's going on, and obviously there will be much more to be discovered. But so, has anybody got anything they want to clarify? Any questions before we wrap it up for this evening?
I personally just want to say thank you very much, Steve. I'm absolutely loving this. Still years on. Keep doing it, mate. Please.
Thank you so much, Karen. That means the world to me. I really do appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that. And I'm delighted to have you all on board. And it's been, as I said at the beginning, it's been a real inspiration to me. I don't only get weepy about it, but as I say,
please do.
Go on then. But it has been, and as I say, it become clear what I'm talking about. There's a few things I'm going to drop in the next, a few little bits. I'm going to drop onto the Facebook group and that have has resulted from the inspiration from this game and this group. So as I say, I really appreciate you sticking with it, and I really appreciate your input and your enthusiasm for it. And I also massively appreciate you kind of approaching it in the way it should be approached with Star Trek. But Mike and I have both played Star Trek games in the past, and this group definitely seems to get it more than most of the others that we've done.
It's the problem with games. I'd say problem with games. You've got to have people who understand it and get what the genre is. It's it's no good coming into a game like this and expecting to play Star Wars.
Yeah, I think any game benefits from having people who you have to embrace the setting. You have to to some degree. But again, I genuinely mean it. We've been playing these characters on and off. Have been going for, as I say, going on for over 4 years now. And again, the fact that I listen back to the stuff we've done, and I read back some of the stuff we've done, and everyone has approached it, and even those who are not with us anymore, like say Sean not being here, and a couple of the other people who've been along for the ride along the way. But everyone's really always approached it with integrity to the setting, and I genuinely really appreciate that, and it's what that's what sets this game apart from as Mike says, playing Star Wars or playing something else. You have to, Star Trek has to be a certain thing, and I'm delighted that we've managed to keep that as part of it, and I'm sure it's in no part of the appeal of the game that we've kind of tried to live up to that and to try to stick to that. So again, I don't want to waffle on for hours, but thank you so much again. And I'd just like to take this opportunity to wish you all a very, very Merry Christmas. I hope I'll see some of you over the next couple of weeks in person. If I don't, or if I do, that'd be great. If I don't, I'm sure we'll catch up in the new year. I'm hoping that this bloody lockdown / pandemic situation doesn't get worse, and hopefully we can again begin to meet up in person at some point in the near future. But regardless, I'll be here. We'll be here. We'll keep on doing what we're doing. And again, I'm grateful, and I really wish you a lovely holiday, a lovely break, and I very much look forward to catching up with you again on the other side.
You too.
Mm-hmm.
Lovely. Cool. Yes. Yeah. Merry Christmas to you all.
Yeah, lovely. Thanks, guys. All right, I'll catch you later, guys, and thanks again. And I'm signing off now. I'm going to stop the recording, and I will speak to you next time.
Lovely. Cheers, guys.
Bye for now. Bye for now.
Bye.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm still here. Thank you for listening to this episode of Starship Vigilant. Kaz was played by Mike. David Osterhagen was played by Kevin. Kolish was played by Kerin. Our music is Fanfare for Space by Kevin MacLeod, which is licensed under a Creative Commons license. See you next time.